Dr. Amanda Blake's coffee mug shattered on the floor of NASA's radio astronomy lab as the first ships appeared. The liquid pooled around her feet, but she couldn't take her eyes off the monitors. The objects had just appeared. No warning, no gradual approach. One moment empty space. The next, massive vessels of impossible size blotting out the stars. "Someone tell me those are equipment malfunctions," she called out to her team, already knowing the answer. The midnight shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station had just become the most important watch in human history. The ships were beautiful in their terrible way. Obsidian black against the void. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As they moved into position above every major city on Earth, their massive forms cast electronic shadows that disrupted communications and power grids. Geometric patterns of deep purple energy pulsed along their sides in rhythms that almost seemed alive. Within hours, every screen on Earth, from Times Square billboards to smartphones in rural villages, crackled to life with the same image. A humanoid figure, tall and elegant in gleaming black armor, regarded the camera with 6 iridescent eyes. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of countless conquered worlds. "People of Earth," Supreme Commander Zarkax announced, "you have been chosen to join the Galactic Empire. Your planet has been assessed, your species evaluated, and your worth determined. You will provide tribute. 10% of your population will serve as laborers in our expansion efforts. 30% of your resources will fuel our fleet. You have 1 standard month to prepare your offering." Resistance. A slight pause, almost amused, is unnecessary. The message repeated in every language, its meaning unmistakable. Humanity had just been reduced to a resource to be harvested. As governments scrambled and global markets crashed, Amanda found herself unable to look away from the energy readings her instruments were collecting. Something about the radiation signature from the ships nagged at her memory. It reminded her of. But that was impossible. Dr. Blake, her junior researcher, Mike Thompson, called out. "Pentagon's on line 1. They want every piece of data we've got on the ships." "Send it," she replied absently, still staring at the wavelength patterns. "But keep channel 6 for me. There's something here we're missing." The pattern finally clicked. Amanda felt her heart race as she pulled up old files from her grandfather's research. He had been a pioneer in radiation therapy back in the 2000s, developing treatments that had revolutionized cancer care. The similarity was undeniable. The Empire's ships were pumping out energy patterns nearly identical to those used in early medical radiation devices. Her hand shook as she overlaid the patterns. The match wasn't just close, it was almost perfect. Humanity had been using this type of radiation for decades, fine-tuning it, understanding its properties at a fundamental level. While the Empire clearly wielded it on a massive scale, the basic principles were the same. "Mike," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. "Get me Director Harrison. Now. He's in emergency meetings with. Tell him it's about the ship's power signature. Tell him." She took a deep breath. "Tell him I think I know their weakness." As alarms continued to blare, and the world descended into chaos outside, Amanda Blake stared up at the ceiling, where she knew those massive ships loomed. They thought Earth was primitive, easy prey for their advanced empire. But sometimes, the most powerful discoveries came from the most unexpected places, like a grandfather's old cancer ward. She pulled up a new document and began to type. Preliminary analysis of Imperial Fleet energy emissions and their similarities to terrestrial medical radiation technology. The clock was ticking. 1 month to turn a medical breakthrough into a weapon. 1 month to prove that humanity wouldn't just roll over and die. 1 month to make the Empire run. 3 days into the crisis, Dr. Amanda Blake hadn't left the underground facility that the military had hastily converted into a research center. Her eyes burned from staring at screens, but the data streaming in from observatories worldwide only confirmed her initial theory. The Empire's technology had an Achilles heel, one they'd never expect a primitive world to find. "Run it again," she told her expanded team, now including the top radiation experts from 3 continents. The simulation played out on the massive display, a precise burst of modified medical radiation disrupting the Empire's energy fields. The results remained consistent. Their shields should fail under the right conditions. Mike Thompson, looking as exhausted as she felt, pointed to the power requirements. "We'd need every major hospital's worth of equipment just to hit one ship. And they have thousands." Amanda allowed herself a slight smile. "Unless we're not thinking big enough." "Dr. Roberts, show them the network proposal." An older woman with steel-gray hair stepped forward, pulling up a new display. "If we linked the devices together, using the planet's magnetic field as a carrier wave," her hands moved across the controls, showing how individual points of radiation could combine into a global web, "we could create a planetary-scale disruption field." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had a way to fight back. A military aide burst into the room, tablet in hand. "Dr. Blake, you need to see this. The Empire just demonstrated their weapons on Mars' largest moon, Phobos." As a warning, the team watched in horror as the recording showed Phobos simply dissolving under the Empire's weapons, the same energy signature they'd been studying, but amplified to unimaginable levels. Amanda's mind raced. "They're using the same basic principles we used for targeted cell destruction in cancer treatment, just scaled up enormously. They can tear apart matter at the molecular level." She turned to her team. "But that much power has to have drawbacks. No one builds weapons this destructive unless they're compensating for something." Working through the night, they found it. The Empire's ships required massive shield systems to protect themselves from their own weapons' radiation backscatter. Those shields operated on predictable frequencies that early cancer researchers had mapped out decades ago. They never had to deal with anyone who already understood this technology, Amanda explained to the Joint Chiefs in an emergency briefing the next morning. They conquered their way across space, taking what they wanted, but they never faced a species that had developed radiation technology for healing instead of destruction. "We know things about these energy patterns that they don't." General Richards leaned forward. "Can we weaponize this knowledge?" "Better." Amanda's eyes gleamed with determination. "We can turn their own power against them. Every hospital, every cancer treatment center, every medical research facility. They're all potential weapons the Empire can't even see. We've been looking at this wrong. We don't need to match their firepower. We just need to disrupt their protective systems at the right moment." The room erupted in urgent discussions. Plans were made, resources allocated. A global network of medical facilities would need to be modified in complete secrecy. They had 26 days left. As Amanda finally left the facility that evening, she looked up at the Imperial ships still hovering like dark stars. She thought about her grandfather, about how he'd spent his life using radiation to save people from cancer. Now his research would help save humanity from extinction. "You know what the real irony is," she said to Mike as they watched the purple energy patterns pulse above them. "They chose Earth because they thought we were weak. But sometimes the greatest strength comes from learning to heal before you learn to fight." They had the advantage. Now they just had to keep it secret long enough to use it. The Empire's tribute deadline ticked ever closer, but for the first time since the ships appeared, Dr. Amanda Blake felt hope. The Imperial Observer watched with satisfaction as another human medical facility was evacuated in preparation for the tribute collection. His reports to Supreme Commander Zarkax were full of pride at how efficiently these primitives were surrendering their infrastructure. If only he'd known What was really happening behind those hospital walls? Dr. Amanda Blake slipped through the hidden access door, following a path that wouldn't show up on the Empire's thermal scans. The hospital's basement had been transformed. Where cancer patients once received treatment, engineers now worked frantically to modify radiation equipment into weapons. Similar scenes played out in medical facilities across the globe. "Status report," she demanded, approaching the central control station, where Mike Thompson coordinated with other facilities worldwide. "We've got 87% of North American centers modified and linked," he replied, not looking up from his screens. "Europe's at 92%. Asia just hit 85%. The trickiest part is keeping the power signatures low enough to avoid detection." Amanda nodded, watching the global network take shape on the monitors. Each modified facility appeared as a dim point of light, connected by lines representing the communication links they'd hidden in normal internet traffic. The Empire's observers thought they were seeing a healthcare system being dismantled. Instead, they were watching humanity build its greatest defense network. "Dr. Blake," a young voice called out. Amanda turned to see Kevin Chen, a 19-year-old hacking prodigy who'd been recruited for the project's cyber division. "We found something weird in the Empire's communications." The team gathered around Kevin's station. "Their quantum encryption," he explained, pulling up code streams. "It's not actually quantum. It's based on mathematical principles really similar to early cryptocurrency mining algorithms. We've been coming at this all wrong. We don't need to break their codes. We just need to mine them," Amanda finished, a slow smile spreading across her face. "They're so advanced, they've never considered someone might attack their systems with technology they consider obsolete." The next 2 weeks became a ballet of deception. While the world's governments made a show of preparing their tributes, underground networks hummed with activity. Hackers who'd once mined Bitcoin now turned their rigs toward breaking Imperial communications. Medical technicians became weapons engineers. Even the public protests were choreographed to hide the real preparations. Amanda stood before the Joint Chiefs again, now with just 5 days until the tribute deadline. "The network is ready," she reported. "Every modified facility is linked and calibrated. The moment they begin their collection, we can trigger a worldwide pulse of disruption radiation that will leave their ships defenseless." General Richards studied the global readiness map. "And you're sure they can't detect this?" "They're looking for wrong things," Amanda explained. "Their scans are designed to detect power signatures from their level of technology. Our network, it's like trying to spot a cave painting while looking for a hologram. They don't even know what to look for." An aide rushed in with new intelligence. The Empire had begun moving collection ships into lower orbit. They were starting early. "They're getting cocky," Mike observed, watching the massive vessels descend through the atmosphere. Amanda's expression hardened. "No, they're getting careless." She turned to the room full of military and scientific leaders. "We're not ready for a full strike, but we can give them a taste of what's coming." She sent the order. A single hospital in Shanghai, modified and waiting, would activate its system at 5% power, just enough to make one Imperial ship's shields flicker for a few seconds. The effect was immediate. The collection ship's engineers went into a panic, unable to explain the momentary defense failure. Best of all, their diagnostic scans found nothing, because they were looking for the wrong thing. "Send word to all teams," Amanda ordered, watching the Imperial ship retreat to a higher orbit. "We move on schedule. Let them think their systems are malfunctioning. In 5 days, they'll learn just how primitive Earth really is." The Trojan horse was in place. Now they just had to wait for the Empire to open the gates. Supreme Commander Zarkax's broadcast filled every screen on Earth, his 6 eyes gleaming with smug satisfaction. "To aid in your acceptance of your new role in the Empire, we have prepared an educational presentation. The feed switched to footage of other worlds that had faced the Empire's might. One by one, alien civilizations fell before the Imperial fleet. In the underground command center, Dr. Amanda Blake watched with different eyes than most. "Stop the footage," she commanded. "Rewind to the Alderaan system battle." The technical team froze the frame where purple energy beams tore through an alien defense fleet. There, she pointed to energy patterns rippling around the Imperial ships. Their shield configurations haven't changed in over 50 years. They've never needed to improve them because no one's ever challenged them successfully. She turned to her team. "Their arrogance is going to be their downfall." Mike Thompson burst into the room, tablet in hand. "Dr. Blake, the Empire's starting to position their collection ships, but they're being weird about it. They're completely avoiding our satellite networks." Amanda's eyes lit up. "Show me the orbital patterns." The display filled with tracking data, showing how Imperial vessels were carefully maneuvering around Earth's satellite infrastructure. "They think our satellites are primitive and fragile. They're avoiding them to prevent accidental damage that might disrupt their collection process." She laughed, actually laughed, for the first time since this crisis began. "They've just given us the perfect blind spot, Kevin." She called to their young hacking expert. "How fast can you reprogram our communication satellites?" Kevin was already typing. "You want to use them as relay points for the network." "That's actually brilliant. They'll never scan them because they think they're worthless." The next 24 hours became a frenzy of activity. While Imperial ships settled into their collection positions, Earth's satellite network was quietly transformed into an amplification system for their counterattack. Each primitive satellite became a signal booster for their hidden weapon. In his flagship above New York, Zarkax continued his psychological warfare. New footage showed worlds that had tried to resist, their civilizations reduced to ash. But each new video revealed more about Imperial tactics, their shield frequencies, their attack patterns. "They're not even using different battle strategies," General Richards observed during the emergency council meeting. "They've been using the same playbook for centuries because it's always worked." Amanda nodded. "And look here." She pointed to analysis of their ship's movements. "They're following standard Imperial collection protocol. Same formation they used on every world in their educational videos. They're not adapting to Earth at all. They don't think they need to." The general leaned forward. "Can we use that?" "We already are," she replied. "Every hospital in their landing zones has been modified. Every satellite they're so carefully avoiding is now part of our network. And they're moving exactly where we predicted they would, because they always follow the same patterns." A junior officer rushed in with new intelligence. The Empire had begun broadcasting tribute collection instructions to major cities. They were starting 12 hours ahead of schedule. Amanda's team scrambled to final positions. The early start was concerning, but in their arrogance, the Empire had given Earth every advantage they needed. Predictable tactics, unchanging technology, and a complete blindness to the weapons being prepared right under their noses. "Send word to all network nodes," Amanda ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "The Empire's making their final move. Time to show them why they should have taken us more seriously." As Imperial collection ships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere, Amanda thought about all those worlds in the Empire's videos. Those civilizations had failed because they tried to fight the Empire on its own terms. Earth was about to try something new. The Empire's fatal mistake wasn't underestimating Earth's technology. It was underestimating human ingenuity. In 12 hours, they'd learn the difference. The Imperial collection ships descended through Earth's atmosphere with theatrical precision, their purple energy fields rippling against the dawn sky. In Times Square, the massive primary collector cast shadows over crowds of terrified humans, its hull seeming to absorb the morning light. Supreme Commander Zarkax's voice boomed across the city. Begin the collection process. In the underground command center, Dr. Amanda Blake watched the deployment through multiple feeds. Status report, she demanded, her voice tight with tension. All modified facilities report ready. Mike Thompson confirmed, his hands flying over the controls. Satellite network is in position, waiting for your command. Kevin Chen called out from his station. Imperial communications intercepted. They're starting with New York, then London, then Beijing. Exactly as their standard protocols dictated. Amanda took a deep breath. Everything they'd planned, everything they'd prepared for, came down to this moment. Send the authorization code to all facilities. Execute Operation Sunburst. Across the globe, in thousands of hospitals and medical centers, modified radiation treatment devices hummed to life. Each one alone was insignificant, but together, linked through the satellite network, the Empire had so carelessly ignored, they created something unprecedented. The first sign that something was wrong came from the primary collector's shield generators. Imperial engineers noticed a slight fluctuation. Nothing serious, they thought, until the fluctuation began to grow. The purple energy field protecting the ship started to pulse erratically. Energy web is holding stable, Mike reported, watching the global network's status. All nodes operating at 98% efficiency. On the main screen, they watched as the first Imperial shield failed completely. The massive collection ship hung exposed above Manhattan, its crew frantically trying to understand what was happening. Similar reports began flooding in from around the world. Imperial shields failing, systems crashing, weapons going offline. Zarkax's face appeared on the emergency broadcast, his 6 eyes wide with genuine fear for the first time. What weapon is this? Our sensors detect nothing. Amanda allowed herself a grim smile. That's because you never thought to look for it. She nodded to Kevin, who patched her through to all Imperial frequencies. This is Dr. Amanda Blake of Earth, that primitive medical technology you ignored. We've been using it to fight cancer for decades. We understand radiation better than you ever bothered to learn. And now we're using it to fight you. The effect was devastating. As the energy web intensified, Imperial ships found themselves not just defenseless, but unable to maintain their position. The mighty collection fleet began to retreat, their perfect formation breaking apart in chaos. They're trying to adapt their shields, Mike warned, watching the data streams, attempting to match our frequency. Let them try, Amanda replied. Kevin, initiate Phase 2. The young hacker grinned. Broadcasting now. Every cancer treatment center just became a transmission point for our signal. The Empire's neural networks, the complex systems that controlled their ships, began to crash under the assault of Earth's modified medical technology. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds were being driven back by equipment designed to save lives. In the command center, the team watched as the primary collector over New York turned to flee, its surface crackling with uncontrolled energy. Similar scenes played out over every major city, the mighty Imperial fleet in full retreat. Should we pursue? General Richards asked, watching the enemy withdraw. Amanda shook her head. No, let them run. Let them tell the rest of the Empire what happened here. Let them explain how their mighty fleet was defeated by a planet's worth of cancer treatment equipment. As the last Imperial ships disappeared into the upper atmosphere, cheers erupted in the command center. But Amanda's expression remained serious. This isn't over, she warned. We just showed the galaxy that the Empire can be hurt. Now we need to be ready for what comes next. The Empire had started this day expecting to collect tribute. Instead, they'd given Earth something far more valuable, hope. And hope, as the Empire would soon learn, was the most dangerous weapon of all. Dr. Amanda Blake stood before the United Nations Security Council, the holographic display behind her showing the retreating Imperial fleet. "We've bloodied their nose," she explained, "but the Empire won't accept this defeat. They'll be back with new tactics, new defenses. We need to strike now, while they're still reeling." Kevin Chen, looking more like a seasoned warrior than a teenage hacker now, stepped forward. "We've cracked their communication protocols completely. Their quantum encryption." He laughed. "It's based on the same principles as Bitcoin mining from the 2020s. They've been using the same system for centuries because no one ever thought to attack it with obsolete technology." Mike Thompson brought up a new display showing the Empire's neural network architecture. Their entire fleet runs on an interconnected system. Ships, weapons, communications, all linked through what they think is an unbreakable network. But thanks to Kevin's team, "We own their network," Kevin finished. "They just don't know it yet." Amanda nodded. "Phase 1 showed them we could defend ourselves. Phase 2 will show them we can fight back. General Richards, are your teams ready?" The general gestured to a group of young people at the back of the room. Professional gamers, cryptocurrency miners, and hackathon champions. Earth's digital army is standing by. Just give the word. "Execute Phase 2, Amanda ordered. Across the globe, a new kind of battle began. Thousands of computers that had once mined digital currency now launched a massive attack on the Empire's networks. The Empire's engineers, still struggling to understand how their shields had failed, suddenly found their neural networks flooded with Earth's digital assault. In orbit, Imperial ships began behaving erratically. Weapon systems activated and deactivated at random. Navigation systems sent ships in circles. Communication arrays broadcast Earth's pop music instead of military orders. "Their security is a joke," Kevin reported, his fingers dancing across his console. "They've never had to deal with this kind of attack before. They don't even have basic firewall protections." On the main screen, they watched as a squadron of Imperial fighters performed an unplanned synchronized dance to stay alive. Under other circumstances, it might have been funny, but this was war. Amanda's team had another surprise ready. The modified medical network that had disrupted their shields now began broadcasting a signal that turned the Empire's neural networks into cosmic soup. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds found themselves paralyzed by code written by Earth's teenagers. "Signal penetration at 80%, Mike announced. "Their entire command and control structure is falling apart." Supreme Commander Zarkax's transmission cut through the chaos, his voice now lacking its former arrogance. "What are you doing? How are you doing this?" Amanda took the communication console. "You made a mistake, Commander. You judged us by your standards. You saw our technology and assumed we were primitive, because it wasn't like yours. But while you were perfecting ways to destroy, we were learning to heal. While you were building bigger ships, we were building better code." "This is impossible," Zarkax sputtered. "You're using cancer treatment devices and obsolete computing systems." "Exactly," Amanda replied. "And that's why you never saw it coming. You were looking for advanced weapons. But sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't think is a weapon at all." The Empire's fleet, what was left of it, began a chaotic retreat from Earth's orbit. But Earth wasn't done. Kevin's team had downloaded terabytes of Imperial data, star charts, ship designs, communication protocols, everything they needed for the next phase. "Should we pursue?" General Richards asked again. This time, Amanda's answer was different. "Yes, but not with ships. Kevin, start broadcasting our code to every world in the Empire. It's time to share what we've learned." The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they'd found their worst nightmare, a species that had turned healing into a weapon and gaming into warriors. The counterattack wasn't just beginning. It was about to go viral. The first message came from a small mining colony in the Centauri system, then another from a trading post near the Empire's core worlds. Within days, hundreds of signals flooded Earth's new quantum receivers, all saying essentially the same thing. We got your code. We're ready to fight. Dr. Amanda Blake stood in the new Galactic Communication Center, once the NASA Deep Space Network facility, watching as green dots appeared on the holographic map. Each point represented another world that had successfully implemented Earth's defense systems. The medical technology is spreading faster than we expected, Mike Thompson reported, scrolling through status updates. Turns out most subjugated worlds had similar radiation treatment centers. They just never thought to use them like we did. Kevin Chen burst into the room, his young face lit with excitement. You're not going to believe this. Remember those educational videos the Empire showed us? The ones about worlds they conquered. We just got a message from the Alderaan system. They're not dead. The Empire just drove them underground. And now, they're fighting back. Amanda finished, a smile spreading across her face. Show me. The main screen filled with footage from across the galaxy. On world after world, modified medical centers came online, creating the same kind of energy web that had driven the Empire from Earth. Imperial ships found their shields failing everywhere they went. Their neural networks crashed system-wide as Earth's code spread like a digital wildfire. The Empire's response is chaotic, General Richards noted, watching Imperial communications. Their fleet commanders can't tell which systems are still under their control. Every time they try to suppress one uprising, 3 more break out. Amanda studied the strategic display. They're making the same mistake again, trying to fight this like a traditional war. But this isn't about ships and weapons anymore. This is about information, and information doesn't care about fleet formations. A new signal cut through their communications, Supreme Commander Zarkax, but not in his usual bombastic broadcast. This was a secured channel, meant only for his top officers. Thanks to Kevin's team, Earth heard every word. Find the source. He raged. How are they spreading this weapon? Our scans show nothing but medical equipment and primitive computer systems, but somehow, his voice cracked with frustration. Somehow they're taking apart our empire with cancer treatment devices and mining rigs. Amanda grabbed the command console. You still don't get it, do you, Commander? We're not taking apart your empire. We're showing people how to free themselves. Every world you conquered, every species you enslaved, they all had the tools to fight back. They just needed someone to show them how. She nodded to Kevin, who initiated their latest program. Across the galaxy, every screen connected to the Imperial network began playing a simple tutorial: how to turn standard medical equipment into shield disruptors, how to use basic computers to break Imperial codes, how to fight back. Latest reports coming in, Mike announced. The Proxima colonies are free. The Sirius trading posts have expelled Imperial forces. The Orion sector, he laughed. The Orion sector is broadcasting dance music on all Imperial frequencies. Amanda watched as more green dots appeared on the map. The Empire had spent centuries building their power through fear and superior technology. But they'd never faced an enemy like this, one that turned their own networks against them, that armed their subjects with knowledge instead of weapons. Dr. Blake, a junior officer, called out, "We're getting a new kind of signal. Other species, they're starting to share their own innovations. The Alderaans have found a way to boost our shield disruption field. The Proxima engineers have improved our code distribution." Amanda smiled. The Empire had forced these worlds apart, kept them isolated and afraid. But now, united by Earth's example, they were beginning to work together. The revolution wasn't just spreading, it was evolving. "Send a message to all allied worlds," she ordered. The Empire wanted tribute. Let's show them what happens when the galaxy learns to work together instead of bow down. The Empire had started this war by demanding Earth's submission. They were about to learn a harsh lesson about the power of shared knowledge and united resistance. The Imperial Palace on Centauri Prime had never looked so diminished. Its once proud purple energy fields flickered weakly, its massive defense fleet reduced to a handful of functioning ships. Supreme Commander Zarkak stood before the Emperor's council, his 6 eyes downcast, as he delivered the unthinkable news. The Empire was losing. Meanwhile, in Earth's Galactic Command Center, Dr. Amanda Blake led a very different kind of meeting. Representatives from 24 liberated species attended both in person and via hologram, each bringing new innovations to their shared cause. The Alderaan radiation modifications have increased shield disruption efficiency by 300%, Mike Thompson reported. And the Proxima code breakers have found ways to turn Imperial neural networks into open information channels. Kevin Chen, now heading a multi-species cyber warfare division, added, "We're not just breaking their systems anymore. We're transforming them. Every Imperial network we crack becomes part of our communication web." Amanda studied the galactic map, where green dots of liberation now outnumbered the red zones of Imperial control. "They're running out of places to hide," she observed, "but that makes them more dangerous than ever." As if on cue, emergency alerts flashed across their screens. The Empire had launched a desperate counterattack, using forbidden weapons that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of space. "They're getting reckless," General Richards warned. "These weapons could destroy entire star systems, including their own." Amanda's expression hardened. "Then it's time for the final phase. Kevin, are you ready?" The young hacker nodded, his fingers already dancing across his console. Broadcasting now. Across the galaxy, every screen connected to the Imperial network changed. Instead of propaganda or battle orders, they showed a simple message. A complete technical blueprint of how Earth had modified medical technology to counter Imperial weapons, along with a more personal note. To the people of the Empire, Amanda's voice rang out across the stars. "We know many of you don't support your leaders' actions. We know you've seen worlds burned and species enslaved in the name of Imperial glory. Today, we offer you a choice." The message continued in every language known to the Empire. "Your leaders want to use weapons that will destroy us all. We could stop them. Our technology can shut down their ships, crash their networks, end their power. But instead, we offer you something different. Knowledge. The same knowledge we shared with the worlds your empire once enslaved." The response was beyond anything they'd expected. Imperial citizens, long fed stories about savage outer worlds, saw for the first time how their empire really operated. Military officers, seeing the devastation their leaders were willing to cause, began standing down their forces. Imperial fleet movements detected, Mike announced. But these ships weren't attacking. They were defecting, joining the growing coalition of free worlds. The final blow came from within the Imperial Palace itself. Junior officers, armed with Earth's modified medical equipment, disabled the Emperor's personal guards. The council chamber's doors opened to reveal not conquest, but conversation. "They're requesting terms," General Richards reported, almost disbelieving. "Not for surrender, for transformation." Amanda took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define not just Earth's future, but the galaxy's. "Tell them our terms are simple. The Empire as they know it ends today. But its people, its worlds, its knowledge, all of that can be part of something greater." They wanted tribute. We'll give them something better. A chance to build a galaxy where knowledge is shared, not hoarded, where technology heals instead of destroys. As the former Empire's representatives entered the command center, Amanda thought about how this had all started. With one small planet refusing to bow down, with cancer treatment devices turned into shields, with teenage hackers breaking unbreakable codes. "Welcome," she said to the Imperial delegation. "Let's talk about the future." The Empire had demanded Earth's tribute. Instead, Earth had given the galaxy its freedom, and something even more precious: hope for a better tomorrow.